welcome to our third episode, episode 3 of season 1 of Wake Up, Speak Up. My name is Vandana Saxena-Puria. I run the Human Alarm Clock, and I am affectionately known as the porcupine because I poke at issues and I poke at people.
Especially me. My name's Aman, and I've recently been christened the Falcon by Vandana, and she did that because she noticed that I had a tendency to want to and show others the wider view and the bird's eye view, if you will. So that's how I get the name Falcon.
And we're really glad you joined. We've got quite a few new people who didn't come to previous episodes. By the way, you can check them out, the previous episodes, on our new YouTube channel, which is Wake Up, Speak Up. But for those of you who are new, we tend to talk for about 30 minutes about something interesting and something that's new and unusual, poke about at it and look at it from different angles. And that's what we're going to be doing today.
So what are we going to talk about today, Vandana?
Right. I have to do a bit of jiggery-pokery now, and
Yeah.
I have to share my screen. You can tell me if I'm sharing the right thing.
Yeah, so the topic is, it's called Forget the Digital Nomad, Make Way for the Mental Nomad. What does the title mean? I'll tell you what I know. I know what a digital nomad is. A digital nomad, as most of us already know, is somebody who works out of anywhere. You don't need to work out of an office. You can actually be working out of a cafe. You can be working out of Thailand, out of Goa. So essentially, using technology to connect. And that's a digital nomad. But what is a mental nomad?
Well, you talk about digital nomads as those who have broken free of the constraint of the office as a location, and they've become location independent. I think the next revolution is going to be that of the mental nomad or mental nomads. And they're people that don't have fixed or constrained ways of thinking, and they're willing to swim against the tide with new ideas. And I say, Aman, they've always been around, but we haven't really identified them as such before.
So that makes some sense. Like nomads don't have a fixed residence. Mental nomads, you're saying they don't have fixed ideas or fixed dogmas. They don't have a fixed career path. They're willing to move mentally, and they're willing to experiment with different things, regardless of what society may have to say about it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's exactly it. And, if you look at this slide and you look at the people that are on this slide, these are people that I certainly see, and I think you do, Aman, as mental nomads. They're not the kind that have subscribed to any particular idea forever. They keep moving, and they keep iterating, and they keep altering and transforming.
True. I think the thing that spoke to you and me about the people on this slide is that they have never been held prisoner to one career path, to a particular geography, or even to the expectations or rules of society at large.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just taking an example, if I take Priyanka Chopra, I think for me, look, I do know her and her family, right? So I've seen both sides, right? I've seen the public side and I've seen the private side as well. What I can tell you is this woman is completely a mental nomad. She's not constrained by any geography boundary. You look at what she did. She grew up in Bareilly, of all places, right? Bareilly in the UP. And she studied for a while in the States, where she faced a lot of racism. She came back here. Her brother was very annoyed when she came back because she took over her old bedroom that he'd been given, and he wanted that bedroom back. So he suggested that she enter this competition called Miss India, which she did. And she won Miss India, and then she went on to become Miss World. Not content with being the beauty, she went into movies in India. Not content with that, she decided to go and experiment in America. She sang a song with Pitbull, which was, a global hit. She got shows on, you know, major streams. She's married somebody who's 10 years younger than her. And she keeps going and she keeps changing. She's also an investor in Bumble, right? So this is somebody who's not said, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to do. She's constantly rechanging and reshaping herself.
And it all started because, you know, of a bedroom.
Yes.
You know, the
Siddharth,
slide,
forgive me.
it looks like mental nomads have the tiniest of motivations to get them going. Yeah, and so Priyanka Chopra is one, and you know, it can be argued that any of these people on this slide have done exactly stuff like that. You take Elon Musk because he's, you know, very current, and you know, you'll find that he and others have done exactly that. Musk was born in South Africa, and while his dad wanted him to study there, he chose his own path. He moved to Canada, he moved to the USA, he studied, he finished graduation. Then he gets into this really prestigious master's college and he decides to drop out. He's doing his own thing. He starts his own company, he's coding, he gets into, you know, sells his first company, gets into PayPal. And then after that, suddenly from being a coder, he's getting into rockets. And then he's getting into Hyperloop, and then he's getting into electric cars. And you know, he's moving on from wife to wife to wife. So clearly a mental nomad.
Yeah, true.
Sorry, you know, I had to throw that in. Right. So you know, let's face it, Vandana. Most of us are not going to be PC or Elon Musk, right? I mean, so is this relevant to us everyday folks, the Aam Admi?
Or the Aam Aurat, I would say.
Yeah.
So you know what, Aman, I've been able to do this, and so have a lot of the people on this call, right? In this webinar with us. But you know, just talking about some of the things that I've done. I'm a chartered accountant by profession. And I moved to Eastern Europe, to Romania, back in the mid 90s, and that's where I met Eliza, who's also on the call, calling in from Romania. And I set up a training company, and that got bought out by a listed company. But you know, not content with all of that, in 2005, when I was 7 months pregnant with number 2, I upped and moved to Pune in India. I set up a company that went up against $2 billion companies. I've written books, and I've gone, you know, I've changed completely, and I've gone right into mindset. I'm divorced and I'm bringing up kids by myself. And, you know, I always had other people saying I was crazy and I shouldn't do this. But I just ignored them. Yeah, just ignored them.
So, so I'm trying to understand, you know, as the rest of us are, what makes somebody a mental nomad, and you know, 2 qualities of mental nomads are becoming clear. One is that they're independent thinkers; they do not necessarily subscribe to the mass view, right? And the other thing I'm noticing is that mental nomads also like to challenge the system, and that's where all progress comes from, right?
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah, and I'm also seeing a third quality. The third quality is that they seem to be taking risks, whether it was, you know, Priyanka Chopra, Elon Musk, or you've all taken big risks. And I think most people shy away from risks like that. You know, they will say that the shoes that you wear or the shoes that they wear are different. They're in different shoes from you. What would you say to that?
So what I would say is, first of all, I'm no way near in the same league as a Priyanka Chopra or an Elon Musk. But what I would say is, I don't think it is about risk. I think it's about self-belief. And it's, is society right or am I right? Right? I never saw, you know, all the moves that I did, even when it was 7 months pregnant, moving to India to have baby number 2 and set up a business in a country that I'd never lived in. I knew I'd be able to get through no matter what, right? When I moved to Central and Eastern Europe, I knew that I could go back to the UK if it didn't work out. Nothing stopped me. When I set up my new venture, I knew that I could always get a job at a corporate if it didn't work out. So, you know, if my book doesn't work out, the new series that I'm writing, I can always go back to training or potentially get a corporate job. The point is, what have I got to lose?
Hmm. Great. So you're saying that it's more about optimism or self-belief, and it's also about not caring what the world will have to say. That seems to be an integral part of mental nomadism. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it is. It's definitely freedom from society's opinion. I think that's the fourth quality of mental
Mhm.
nomads.
Mhm.
You know, what's going to happen if it doesn't work out? Somebody somewhere is going to say, "I told you so. It didn't work out." I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered about what they say. I'm not bothered about making less money or having to go down a rung. Of the ladder. I mean, whose rung is it anyway? Whose ladder is it? If it's my ladder, then who cares where I am on it? I just feel that I question things, and I realize that for me there are no rules or dogmas that I have to adhere to because something's happened in my past.
Hmm. Okay. So one mental nomad trait I'm also noticing based on what you just said, Vandana, is that mental nomads insist on living not by other people's standards.
Mm.
They are led more by internal metrics. They are led by their own values, and if they notice any inner dissonance or a desire inside, they're going to act on that.
Hmm.
That seems to be a fifth quality.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Right, and another thing I'm noticing. Tell me if I'm right here. There seems to be a willingness to reshape yourself among mental nomads. You, for example, have gone from being a chartered accountant at the beginning, and
Mm.
you went from there to being an educationist. You started a business. You became an author and a consultant, right? I
Yeah.
went from working in sales to operations inside corporations, and then I moved to talent development, facilitation, and coaching. So I think it's about being true to. It's about going after your passions unashamedly, even if it means throwing caution to the wind. And I think if you've attempted to reshape yourself even once, that is a sign of mental nomadism. I'm reminded of guys like Gandhi and Mandela and Muhammad Yunus. They were doing something else, and they changed track entirely.
Mm.
So these mental nomads, they seem to have lived their inner truth.
Yeah, yeah. And not only have they lived their inner truth, um, they've been willing to change their thought processes, right? You look at someone like Mandela, who was more or less at one stage of his life was a thug, right? And then he went to jail, and then he came, that time in jail made him think about things and made him realize that what he was doing wasn't quite right. And so I think a seventh quality is that they're willing to change their thought processes.
Yeah.
And you know what? We give politicians so much heat if they change their mind, right? Because often they'll change their mind just because it's the opposition saying it. But if they change their mind and they're willing to see it through, to follow through, then I think that's a brilliant thing. And don't you think we have a really regressive attitude to changing our minds? I mean, evolution, animals shedding their skin, change is natural. So why are we always against people changing?
Yeah, I think Shane Snow, he wrote a wonderful article about it. And he said, look, some of the most successful people in the world, the reason they are the way they are is that they're willing to change direction. They're willing to change their mind.
Yeah, and but one thing I would say, I mean, is it's a painful process. I remember when I exited my last company, it wasn't on brilliant terms, and I kind of lost my whole friend circle, and I
Mhm.
had this huge down, right, a really bad down. But the thing is, with mental nomads, they find their way back really quickly. They bounce back, right, and I think that's the eighth quality. Most of us don't, because we then go into scared mode, and we don't want to do something risky because it might happen again. But the younger generation seem to be changing. I see a lot of mental nomads in the younger generation.
Yeah, you talked about there being downsides to being a mental nomad. Do you want to tell us more about that?
Huh. Um, yeah, well, one of them is, and I think this is quality number 9, we're considered misfits, right? Most of society doesn't understand us because we go against the grain and we speak out. And I see this all over the place. I see this with organizations that I'm involved with. They expect me to do something, and I'm constantly innovating and changing things, and they're like, you know, and part of the challenge is that people don't understand it, and so you're kind of outcast, and sometimes that's tough. You know, you're not on the leading edge, you're often on the bleeding edge, right? And it's really painful, it's really sharp. So I would say, you know, people like Elon Musk, Priyanka Chopra, Tesla, all of them, Da Vinci, they were way ahead of their times. And people don't get them often until they're dead. I mean, think about the greatest writers and artists, you know, and I think mental nomads tend to be loners because they find it difficult to relate to others and they don't suffer fools. So they're frequently lonely, they're criticized, they're misunderstood. I think they get bored quickly. And sometimes, you know, I can honestly say there are times, not often, but sometimes I do wonder, God, why can't I be more normal and just think about normal things and do normal things? Sometimes I wonder, is it worth it?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question, and I want to talk about that for a moment. But you know, here's something for the audience: if you've ever felt the way Vandana described it, you know, and the way she and I have sometimes felt, if you've ever felt misunderstood, if you've ever felt frequently criticized, you know, or if you think that you're a square peg in a round hole, a misfit, just give me a thumbs up from the, you know, if you know how to use Zoom, you know how to do that, right? So do that, and we'll know how many of you are possible misfits like us.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, great.
We've got a few people.
Thank you. Welcome, misfits. This is your tribe.
Yes, we are your tribe. Yeah,
right.
wow, we've got lots of them.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah, so, you know, I think interesting point you brought it to, you know, sometimes it may seem like, is it worth it? And here's what I think about it, okay? When I look at what mental nomads have achieved, I think what they do is that they imagine the future.
That's a 10th quality.
Yes, this is the 10th quality. I think they imagine the future and they go out to try and, you know, make the future a reality. You look at what they've done. Steve Jobs, J.R.D. Tata, Nikola Tesla, Oprah Winfrey, Ronnie Screwvala, anybody. They actually thought about how the world needed to be different, or how a product needed to be different, or how an industry needed to be different. They went out there, they dreamed about it, they changed it. And your own visionary fiction series that you're writing, Vandana, the Ojas Chronicles, it's also about reimagining this future. I'm also reminded about people, about businessmen like Warren Buffett, Azim Premji, Vineet Nayyar, Bill Gates. All of these guys decided to buck the trend of being billionaires and give away most of their fortune to universities, to schools, to malaria eradication. So look at the impact that they create in the world. But again, here's the thing. I know that mental nomads think like that, but most people are going to ask, look, all of that is for, you know, Priyanka Chopra and Elon Musk and Warren Buffett, but I'm not them, so why should I consider being a mental nomad?
So Aman, you know, I've been teaching, coaching and interacting with thousands of people across 3 to 4 continents over the last 25 years. And what I know is there's a growing number of people who are really upset with life today. And in my coaching work, people are admitting that they're not happy. And in fact, I'd say 9 out of 10 people are really unhappy, but feel trapped and constrained and think that they can't do anything about it. They're also thinking, is this it? Is this what life is about? Is this what I signed up for?
So why do you think that they are not able to get out of it? Why do you think they can't do anything about it?
I think it ends up coming down to 2 things. I think it comes down to money and also what's expected of them from society. And I think it's interesting to see that the younger generation are not following these rules so closely anymore. Many in the West, especially, are breaking away. And we see research about Gen Z. I don't know if you know this, but the Gen Z are the generation and the end, the lower end of the millennials are the ones that saw their parents in the US really suffer from the subprime crisis, right? They saw them lose their houses, their cars, everything that had been built, their parents lost. And that generation is now giving a big two fingers to society. They're not buying pensions, right? Because they're saying, we don't know if that's going to be worth it in the future. They're not buying properties. They're not buying cars. They're looking for shared ownership. They don't want a steady job. They want several consultancy assignments or the gig economy. And that's what they're working on, because they don't want to be beholden or prisoner to a system that they feel was designed to exploit them.
Yeah, I think that's really valuable, because let's face the truth. The system that looks at people as primarily customers or employees, either a source of money or a source of labor. That kind of a system is really exploitative, and the world is an imperfect place. And unfortunately, most of us ignore these facts. They ignore most ignore how they feel about this imperfect world. They sweep their feelings under the carpet. So who causes that change then? I think it is those people who are willing to act when they feel around them. I think those are the mental nomads we are talking about. We still have children that are being sold into slavery. We have Dalit women being raped, and we read about that recently. We have worker salaries not being increased at the same rate at CEO salaries. And all of this we watch, and all of this irritates us, but we don't act. And I think that if more people stood up, we would see more change. For example, there are people that we know who are trying to create more disabled friendly workplaces. There are people that we know who are trying to create more LGBT inclusive workplaces. There are people we know who are trying to create more women friendly workplaces and more Black friendly workplaces. And these are the people that are making the world a different place. While the rest of us, we are quiet, we put our head down, we say, I got to make my money. There are others who are woken up, and they've chosen to speak up. And I think that's what mental nomads do. That's the service they do. Doing the thing that no one else is willing to do. I personally thank God for the first primate who said that I'm not going to walk on four legs anymore. He was the first, or she was the first mental nomad who said, I'm going to walk on two legs. Enough is enough. We want that idiot monkey who is non-compliant, who was ostracized because they did not want to comply with group norms. Because, these are the people who are going to change the world. And in addition to changing the world, I think the other reason, Vandana, to become a mental nomad is that it improves your own life. I mean, don't we want to develop our other talents? Don't we want to learn drumming, guitaring, singing, drawing, painting? Don't we want to contribute in other areas? Don't we want to grow into something else? Don't we want to, move to Goa and, live there?
Yeah, I mean, all of the above, all of the above. I quite enjoyed that little soliloquy. No, but I totally get what you're saying. I think the final goal is really to help free up people so they can discover themselves more. And I think being a mental nomad helps you, somebody who indulges in multiple interests, they seem to lead happier, healthier, more successful lives. Certainly all the mental nomads that I know, and I've kind of plucked them from different places over the years, even the career corporate folk who realize that work is not fulfilling enough, they find something else so that they either leave work or they do something else as well as work. So they might become marathoners or triathletes, or they play in a band or something, right? But the real mental nomads are the ones that go all out and say, I'm going to make that change. And so even if you're doing like 25% or 35% of it, being a mental nomad in some aspect of your head does increase happiness and the aliveness quotient, well-being, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. And as we look at the comments that are going on in the chat box, it looks like there are quite a few of us mental nomads out there I'm seeing some wonderful comments
Yeah.
coming in from Amit Tandon, from Omkar, who's saying, hey, broader perspective, and Eliza is a curious one again,
Yeah.
and Vikram Bapat as usual. And I think some of, so one of my really good friends, somebody I truly admire, is like that. There's this guy called Vikas Dhawan who's on this call. You'll see, this image of him wearing a suit, very compliant suit. I wish he wouldn't do that. But he dabbles in multiple things. He's dabbled in software, he's dabbled in automation, he does painting, he does writing on the side secretly. He's interested in archaeology. I'm actually interested in getting his opinion. So you think we should do that? We should
Yeah,
get
yeah. Let's, Vikas, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, so tell us your thoughts. Are you a mental nomad?
Yes, I've been a nomad as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
So every around 4 years or so, I drop whatever I'm doing and get into a domain I know nothing about. And everything around me changes. So the place around me changes. Last 20 years, I've covered all the continents, other than Antarctica, that is. Not just my work, but even my friends change. I think it's a lot about wanting to be an explorer, about being an experience collector. One more factor I could add is looking for texture. I look for texture and roughness in my food, in my clothes, in my friends, and even in my life. So each time things get too comfortable around me, it starts getting plasticky, it gets too smooth, it gets too icky. And I yearn for the road again, for the unknown road. I look for texture again. I want to explore again. And I start a new journey again.
I remember Vikas had once described himself Vandana, as an experience chaser or an experience connoisseur.
Yeah. That's a beautiful way.
Experience collector. Sorry, yeah, experience collector.
An experience collector and an experience connoisseur, squeezing everything out of that one experience. I call it inexperiencing, right? Because you're going in.
Absolutely right, Vandana.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
So because we'll get you speaking a bit later again.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Right.
That's cool.
One of the questions that I'm seeing from Eliza was really, hey, does the education system, or does societal or familial systems, do they knock out the mental nomad out of us? And I suspect you're right about that, Eliza. I think, Vandana, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah. Music to my ears. Yes, our true state of being, I believe, is being a mental nomad. And I think the system has taken it out of us. I think the default state is to be mentally, to be a mental or exploratory nomad. Think about kids, they eat mud. My daughter, she used to eat mud. She used to kiss Pune Station's ground. That was her favorite thing to do, right? They check out colors. The system kills our curiosity. And we're taught that it's not good to focus on multiple things, that focus is more important than curiosity. And that's why in one of the planets in my books, because I wanted to explore different worlds, one of my planets is a planet which is totally run by children. Because think about what we do to children. We're always saying to them, don't do this, do that, be like this, otherwise people won't like you. And we indoctrinate them. So I do think that that's what happens. And this kind of nonsense has made people not explore, right? And not think that certain things are important. So Aman might want to learn to drum or sing, but has to focus on a job, as without money, he can't do anything. And the money trap prevents us from discussing and developing other facets. Why can't we develop our brains in multiple areas? And I know that there is the issue of money, don't get me wrong, but if we want to do, and this is what I found from if you have that self-belief, you will find a way to somehow make something work.
Yeah. And, so I think you don't even need to go it alone, to be honest. There's an entire ecosystem of people who can actually help you do this. There's guys like, Vandana and Vikas and me, who have kind of done this in small degree, and we'd be very happy to guide you through the process if this is becoming an itch for you. So we've got to move on to this very important question, which came up from Kishore Keswani, and I think others may have it too. People are wanting to know, how do I become a mental nomad? Let's say let's say you agree with us and you think that you're in some kind of a rut. What are the first tiny steps that we can take towards becoming a mental nomad? Where does one start, Vandana?
Okay, so I want to give you a very quick story about my mother, because I think she was, for me, the first mental nomad that I was close to. So here was this woman who had grown up in Gorakhpur in India, but got married and went to the UK in 1967, and then promptly had my brother and had me. And I just remember, you know, mums, they're the light and life of our house. They're the color, right? But I noticed when I was about 9 or 10, which was in the early 80s, my mum had lost all her color, right? She'd got into the rut of life. And one day she came to me and my brother and she said, listen, I'm going to go out every Saturday morning for a few hours. And you're not to ask me where I'm going, but I'm going to go. And I'll be back. And then when I come back, we can do things together. And so me and my brother were like really curious, but she just went, and she would always come back, flushed cheeks, like eyes lit up. And suddenly it was like the light had switched back on in our house, and suddenly we could see color. And this went on every week, right? She used to go for these 3 or 4 hours in the morning, 2, 3 hours in the morning, and she'd come back flushed, and she'd be happy mum again. And then she started doing many, many other things. We found out 6 months later, right? And remember, this is early 80s. We found out that she'd actually been going to a gym, right? A gym with her best friend. And they'd gone for an hour. And then after that hour, they would go and have a steam and a sauna. So she'd come back totally refreshed. Now, at that time, no women went to gyms, you know, God forbid that women went to gyms. So anyway, my dad kind of turned a blind eye to it. But that was the change. She started doing something for herself because she wanted to. Now, many of you are exercising, but not really because you want to, because you know you have to stay fit. I'm not talking about doing something because you know really you have to do it and it's going to be good for you. I'm talking about doing something because you really, really want to do it, right? And that's the starting point. And my mum actually mentally created for me a model called the 5S model. And I'm going to try and share it on my screen, actually, because I think it's I think it's quite a useful model. Hopefully you can see this. Yes, Aman?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing is, in this moment that we're in now, where you've suddenly thought, oh God, I do exercise, but I only do it because I'm supposed to keep fit, or I do yoga and I pretend it's because I really enjoy it and it's relaxing, but I know it's good for me, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something that you really, really, really want to do. And the first S is, in a split second, you just say, you know what, I'm going to start doing it, right? So take up something new, right? Just because we're stuck at home because of COVID, it doesn't mean, you know, there's so many courses on Coursera where you could learn about something. Aman's teaching kids about dinosaurs, for goodness sake. So, because he loves dinosaurs, right? So find something you really want to do, and in a split second, make an agreement that that is something you want to do. The second S is create a SMART goal, that I am going to do this, come what may, I'm going to do this every week, or I'm going to do this twice a week, or once every 2 weeks, whatever, right? That's your second S. Your third S, my mum's best friend, Sushu Auntie, is her Sarthi, right? Her Sarthi, find somebody who is going to make sure on those days when you say, I don't have time, there's too much office work or whatever, that you're actually going to do it, right? So find a Sarthi, find a best friend who's going to be on your back. And with that best friend, set up strong. Decide what time you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, etc., etc. Get going on it. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, switch and get your Sarthi to do something he or she really wants to do. And you be the Sarthi to them. Okay. So I think that's a really good way to start.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you, for sharing those things about us. I think, so it looks like the starting point you're saying is look inside yourself.
Yeah.
Find the things that you're interested and passionate in and start doing those, right?
One of those things. Just start doing one of those things. And Aman, you're a bit of an expert in this. This is what you do, isn't it?
Yeah. I like to say that I help people confront their passions.
Right.
Right? I mean, people confront their fears, but they don't confront their passions. I like to bring people face to face with the things that they're deeply interested in. I help them embrace those things, even talk about how they can switch careers and start building a career in those lines. So that's what I do.
Yeah, yeah, and that's brilliant. And once you're on that path and you've found that passion, um, I think once you're fixed with that, then start to look inside yourself and be prepared to ask yourself difficult questions about why you are the way you are, why you don't take risks, and don't justify it. I think that's a time, but only do that once you're really into your passion area. You've met someone like Aman who can help you find your passion, and then you've been doing that for a while and you're ready for that next stage, then you start to unwind and think that.
Yeah. And, again, reflect on what is holding you back. Is it a fear? And come to figure out what that fear is. Challenge that fear, reason with it. If it, you know, and that's actually a technique that counselors and psychologists can actually teach you. How do you challenge and rationalize those fears? A coach can teach you, a friend can teach you. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And talking of friends, Aman, I think the other most important thing, and I hope you all realize that find your tribe. Find your tribe. We're part of this tribe. If you are a mental nomad, you've got to reach out to us more, because there's a growing tribe of us and we're here to support you. We want to lift everyone up and help them do that. So find people who encourage your new thinking, your experimentation, who kind of think like you or have experience at succeeding in mental nomadism. And I think we've got quite a few people on this call, and I think it's now time, if it's okay with you, Aman, let's open up. I'd love to hear from Vishnu Raj. He's written something really interesting in the chat. So Vishnu Raj, could we get you to speak? Vishnu Raj, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hi. Yeah, please tell us what you've put.
Well, uh, I mean, I'll confess that the term was very exotic when I heard it. So, mental nomadism. So, I actually went about educating myself what it can be about.
Mm-hmm.
And at least what I was able to glean is that it is probably an alternative or a route that on the one hand is about being unshackled, but quite on the other, it brings in probably the cons of being unshackled and untethered. I guess it's going to be a rather tense trade-off between what's innate to our natures. And a whole lot, whether we may say Gen Z or boomers,
Mm.
innately, as we move along our lives, there is a tendency to look for some stability or a little bit of calm. However, there are outliers, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I probably made that particular observation. It is probably very tough to say that being a nomad, whether it's digital or mental nomad, is the way, as in, um, principally the right or wrong way. It's a mode,
Absolutely.
and that mode, as in many choices in our lives, has to be chosen wisely. I believe that if it is unfortunately chosen as a go-to fad, it might have some very, very unsavory consequences, and that's probably what more of what I have in mind.
Okay, I mean, fair point. And what I would say to you is, again, I think it is about self-belief, and it is unsafe. I truly believe that it's only out of destruction you get the greatest creation, right? And sometimes we have to destroy old ways of being, which can be very, very painful, in order to find new ways of being, right? And it is all to do, I'm not saying that everyone has to be a mental nomad at all, but I think everyone needs to identify with what part of them is a mental nomad. And I think Kishore has kind of put that point there. How about finding a balance between being what we are today and being a mental nomad? Yeah, absolutely. But it is about speaking up more for things that you would normally let slide because you want to keep the peace. I think that's an important part of being a mental nomad.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I think very perceptive comment from you, Vishnu. Hey, Vishnu, incidentally, very nice to hear your voice and after so long. But
You're welcome.
yeah, very perceptive, and I got two quick things that I want to come back to that. One is, of course, you're right. Just because we're talking mental nomadism doesn't mean we're dissing the other.
No, not at all.
People can have absolute freedom to choose what what paths they want to have for themselves. And you're right. And I face this myself because when I changed careers, when I quit the corporate world to become a consultant, I did it. At the drop of a hat. I'd been thinking about it, and I said, okay, done. This is what I'm doing. So without much planning. And so my advice to anyone, which is why I now coach people through it, because I know the pitfalls of doing it so suddenly. So it does need to be done with some, with some planning and coaching and guidance. And I think that's a fair point, because the consequences of doing that can be, can actually set you back a little bit. And the last point I want to say, Vishnu, is look, there are consequences. You know this, right? There are consequences to any choice you make. If you don't give in to your inner passions, you're risking a life of boredom and stagnation and being stifled. And if you do give it to them, you're risking your career and maybe risking penury. So there's a risk one way or the other. And I think we all choose which risk is less acceptable to us. Does that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I want to see.
Right.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, just wanted to say, should we? Just wanted to say that we're throwing it open to you people if you want.
Yeah, thoughts from people.
Anybody.
Anyone. Eliza, I'd like to. I'm going to pick on you first. I hope you're okay with that, Eliza. I'm just really curious. In Romania, I mean, it's been a long time. Mi ador de Romania. But it's been a long time since I've been there. And you ask a question, do you think some people are born to be mental nomads? I think we all start off as mental nomads. But what do you think? In Romania, are people more mental nomads, or are they still, is the grind there?
As I told you, it's a matter of generation. The small ones are more mental nomads because they don't have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
If you don't have nothing to lose, you can take the risk and be yourself.
Yeah.
And how can you, because this was my second thought, my second question, how can you balance, or how can you make peace between you being, let's say, a mom or a dad or somebody in a family with some strict responsibilities with your desire to be a nomad? Yes, you take some time for your hobbies, but if you take a decision to be a nomad, changing big things like profession, like doing something else in your life, the others, which depends on you, will suffer. So this is the point. If you take the risk to destroy the other, let's say, equilibrium, or in order to be happy, free, do whatever you want, with creating the comfort to spend your time for the others, to do not destroy the material level that you arrived, because every change meaning starting from scratch, from nothing. So yes, at 20, it's easy to be a nomad. At 50, it's a bit harder.
You bring up a really good point, and I think this is what Vishnuraj was also saying. The one thing that I'd say, I remember when I decided to exit my last company and start up something new, I did say to my kids, listen, until this stuff is sorted out, I'm going to have one, and I don't want to stay running that company for various reasons. Until this is sorted out, there might not be the holidays that you're used to. There might not be this, there might not be that. But what you will get is your mum at home. What you will get is me traveling less. What you will get is this. And actually we sat down as a family and kind of talked about it. And they were like, we'd just love to see you happy, and it's okay. We can go to Goa instead of going to Los Angeles. You know, they were, and I know I'm in a very privileged position because I can still go to Goa. But, you know, I need to tell you, there was this one year where I literally had nothing. And I'd said to the kids, you know, it's going to be really, really difficult. But they got it. So I think it's also about others having faith in you that you will sort it out, but you also having the self-belief to be able to make certain changes. But I agree with you, it's much harder at 50 than it is at 20, for sure.
Yeah, and if I can just quickly add to that, you know, here's a perspective. While you know, while it is seen that chasing your passions are you know, is a risky affair, but that risk, I think, exists even within your career. Let's say you're a, you know, you're a corporate careerist. There are going to be ups and downs out of that may not be in your control that you may face, right? I mean, I remember I was once with an airline company, and in the 2008 crash, you know, after that, you just, there was nothing you could do, right? I mean, airlines weren't making money, so they started to lay off staff, and I was one of the casualties. And suddenly, you know, for no fault of mine, I'm sitting outside the organization. What do? You got to reinvent. So you go back to the grind. In a good economy, you find a job quickly. In a bad economy, I've got friends who stayed at home for 8 months, right? And thankfully they had another spouse making an income. But imagine somebody without a job on one income, and they've done nothing. They've not chased their passions. They said, look, I want to stick in this lane, but then something happens to that lane. So risks like that may happen within as well. I think that's one thing to consider. And but your point is very valid, Eliza, very valid, Vishnu. And I think what we are trying to do, at least one of the things that Vandana and I speak about often, is we want to create an ecosystem for the gig worker. We want to create you know, something which is a support system, a guidance system for people who want to lead the nomadic life. We want to help them with advice and other things that'll, you know, that'll de-risk this a little bit. And the other thing is do this mental nomadic stuff in a country that offers you some guarantees. You know, do it in a country that is that has more socialist policies that'll give you a cushion, rather than doing it in a country which is pure capitalist. It's a, if you fail, you're on your own.
Usually when the things goes well, it's very hard to make the movement.
Yeah. When
the things goes not so well, you said, okay, this is the time. The lives push you further. But if the things, everything is in peace and quiet and comfortable, it's very hard to push yourself to do the things you'll do, but only small things around the big thing. In order to do a big change, you need somehow, the life should give you a push, maybe.
True. No, I agree. That's true in my experience as well. And that's what we meant, you know. So what happens is you've got some inner dissonance, and that inner dissonance can just be dissatisfaction. Like in Vikas's case, it's an itch. Every 4 years, he's got to scratch it, right? So, you know, he's just giving into that. And I think you're right. So it's a question of how many of us are willing to scratch that itch.
Yeah, and it is, and you know, obviously there is the fear mindset and the abundance mindset. Yeah. And you know, that does play a role. But you know, what I would say is, and absolutely 100% wholeheartedly a mental nomad. My life in Budapest was really successful before I moved to India. I cashed it all in. Everything was going fine, but I did have that itch. It wasn't that anything was going wrong, but I had that itch, and I wanted to come to India. I wanted to explore, you know, my heritage, and I wanted my kids to know what it would be like to grow up here. So threw caution to the wind and just, you know, came out here. So I'd like to bring someone else in on this, actually. Nisha Anand in Pune, and then up to move to Gujarat, and she's done some really interesting things, and you know, there've been challenges with your family and stuff. Nisha, just your thoughts on mental nomadism.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vanna. I think, this was like the first time when I read this term, I was like pretty impressed. It's a fantastic term, and it made me really think deep, earlier I never labeled the kind of activities or the kind of work that we do and related to this term. So first of all, fantastic, concept altogether. Yes, so I totally, endorse this idea that, the kind of examples that you and Aman have been sharing, and it's a really, really very inspiring. To tell you the fact, although, India is talking a lot about equality and, breaking the glass ceilings, but for women, it has really not been that easy so far. So for me, before marriage and after marriage life were pretty different, and especially after children, and you are a working lady, and then you have so many expectations. You want to contribute so much beyond the world, so of your immediate world. So there are challenges. A 9 to 6 kind of a job is something that a career woman who's like a pretty educated is a good kind of a choice. So that's where it all began when I started my journey with L&T in Pune. But gradually, I always wanted to follow my passion, and I was more inclined towards kind of contributing to people's life, and contributing in transformations, and influencing people in a way where I could make a positive difference to them. So that's where I got into training and coaching. So Vanna, you are a dear friend of mine, and we've been to this together. I really I'm quite inspired with the kind of work that you've done, and you would relate to what I'm saying. So that's when I got into my coaching and mentoring business. And so initially there were a lot of challenges, and there were times wherein my husband has been very supportive in this entire scene. But yeah, talking about other expectations, it's definitely wasn't that easy earlier, unless and until you prove yourself that you can really make it, and you have to really have belief in yourself. So that's where things really worked out well, wherein I never left the belief in me that I could really make it happen, I could get it done, follow my passions, and then just give my 100% to what I was doing. So I think that something helped me go against the odds and keep moving. So I think it has really helped me keep moving.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Nisha.
Thank you, Nisha. Omkar, I actually see your question, and if it's okay with you and with the rest of us, is it okay if I try and answer that question, later on? Please do reach out to me. If you're connected on LinkedIn, reach out that way, or connect and reach out, and I'd be very happy to talk to you about it. In fact, if more people are interested, we are very happy to do a webinar around the kind of ecosystem we can put in place to help people do this. Yeah, thanks, Omkar.
I'm just looking at time. So I reckon we need to wrap up, because we promised everyone we would be done by 6. What I'm going to do is just share the screen again, to just remind you of what we suggest you do if you want to be a mental nomad, right? The 5S model, which I have done something with. There you go. I'm happy to send these slides out to you. Look inside yourself, find the areas that you're interested or passionate with. Once you've sorted those 2 out, then think about, why do you not take risks? Why? Ask yourself those difficult questions. Why do you not take risks? Why do you not like certain people, etc., etc.? Reflect and discover your fears, and find your tribe. Your tribe is here, but go out and explore and find some more people in your tribe. We've got the qualities. We're happy to share these with you if they'd be helpful. I don't know what else to say, but it's just, I can't believe that the hour has gone so fast. I know what I needed to do, and that was just to tell you what we're going to be covering in the next session. So
just before we go to the next session, Vandana, if I may,
yes,
I just wanted to encourage everybody, because I think what has happened is some of you have started thinking about this. It's made you start reflecting on your own, life and choices and obstacles and stuff like that. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to hear from you. If if you're going to put up a post on LinkedIn talking about what thoughts are going on in your head because of what we've spoken about, if there are
or the one change that you're planning on making, the one passion that you're going to bring in now.
Yeah, I mean, any plans that are forming in your mind, anything that you intend to change, anything that's going on. If you put that down on LinkedIn and you tag us, you say you put a wake up, speak up hashtag and a mental nomad hashtag, we'll pick it up and we'll get a conversation going with you around those questions and those intentions.
Great. Yeah. And the last thing is we are meeting again on the 11th of November, where we're going to be talking about what's our stand, diversity or diversity. Looking at diversity in a way that you will not have looked at it before. So if it's something, and we're not just talking about male, female here, we're talking much, much wider about the importance of it, how it's being carried out, how it's not being carried out, what could change. So please put that in your diary, 11th of November. And thank you so much to everyone. It's been a fantastic session.
Great to have you once more.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Do put some comments down in the comment box. Otherwise, reach out to us. Otherwise, we will see you on the 11th of November. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Howdy, Vikas. You look like you're in this cave meditating.
Yes.
I have a power cut here. That's why I wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank God you have good battery life.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was awesome talk, and I really enjoyed it. And good to know there are a lot more people like us.
Yes.
Secretly, back of my head, I think we are wired differently in our brain. Maybe we are neurodiverse. I mean, what do both of you think?
Yeah. I think so. But I think all people do start off that way. Somehow we've managed to keep it going.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. And it would be good to reach out to people who are younger, who are this way, who don't fit in anywhere and they don't know why.
Yeah.
They really need the support.
Yeah.
So their self-belief is not disturbed.
Yeah.
And they can go and do the things they want to do.
Totally, that's really good, because we should consider running these sessions actually at universities or for university kids, because I think it would really help them.
Awesome program. It'll be awesome program.
Yeah.
And I think that neurodiversity thing that you spoke about, that is the right term, because the truth is we are all neurodiverse.
Yeah.
And,
we are different. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all different. We're wired different.
It's no more seen as a handicap. It's seen as a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, it is. It's not norm compliant, right?
Yeah, it's a different way of being. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
So that being that, I don't think people by choice can become this way. I think a lot of it is very hardwired, and unless it comes from your heart, you won't really be this way.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we can. Nutan's just put a question. Nutan, we actually have a YouTube channel now, which is Wake Up, Speak Up. So we'll make sure that we send you the link. Thank you so much. I'm really glad you joined us, Nutan. And I hope you enjoyed the previous 2 episodes. Sorry, Vikas.
Yeah, so...
So I truly believe that you can disrupt mindsets. And there's certain levels. I think people are naturally neurodiverse, but they've trained themselves not to be. And so for some people, it may take longer. And for others, I think they can do it quicker.
Absolutely right. It's just like in some parts of India, long back, they would discourage people from being a left-hander. They would hide behind their back.
Yeah.
Exactly
across the world, in fact. Across the world. Yeah.
So
thank you. Yeah,
another
sorry.
thing that I came across recently, and this is kind of the question that Omkar and others were asking, and what Vishnu was saying. Recently, I attended webinar kind of a thing on the gig economy. So there were 2 people from Aon Hewitt or Aon, and there was another gentleman from Gigster website, and they were actually talking about the changes that are happening and the support systems that have begun to be put in place for Gigsters. So, I think if we talk about that a little more to people who are itching to try out the nomadic or the gig life, there could be a lot of changes in the future. I know Vikas is very future oriented, and there could be enough support available in the future for nomadic folks.
You're absolutely right, Aman. And the thing is, I think this won't be a choice anymore. So the new area I've gotten now is AI, ML and stuff. So I see this disrupting a lot of jobs. Within 2 or 3 years, fixed jobs will be a thing of the past. And every 3 or 4 years, bunch of people will be told that we don't need you anymore. The work you're doing is now being done by machines.
Yeah.
And everyone will have to do this reinvention stuff that we have been doing all our life. Everybody will be forced to do it. They won't have a choice anymore.
So Vandana, we're putting up a poll, in the next few years. Are you a digital nomad, mental nomad, forced nomad?
Yeah, that's true.
Forced nomad.
That's true.
So lovely talking to all of you, and I look forward to your next episode.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Vikas. It was great having you on. Thank you.
I loved it too. Thanks, Vandana. Thanks, Aman.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, I think we should say bye-bye to everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, Veena, Abdur, Dhaval, Nutan, thank you so much for joining in.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, a huge thank you to Glenda and to Yamini for always. Mwah.